Good morning. We live in a world where wanting has become the new doing. We chase goals, titles, promotions, money, followers, validation. But the truth is this: you don't get what you want by chasing it. You get what you want by becoming the kind of person who deserves it. Today, I'm not going to give you a formula. I'm going to give you something far more powerful, a mindset, a way of thinking that doesn't just help you achieve your goals. It transforms you in the process. In 1903, two brothers, Orville and Wilbur Wright, built a flying machine in a bicycle shop. They had no funding, no formal education, and no media coverage. Meanwhile, a man named Samuel Langley, backed by the U.S. government and Harvard connections, had everything: money, talent, resources, press. He was expected to be the first to fly. But we don't remember Langley, do we? We remember the Wright brothers. Why? Because the Wright brothers had a belief, a deep, burning why. They believed to their core that if they could figure out how to fly, they could change the course of humanity. They weren't in it for fame or fortune. They were in it for purpose. Langley wanted to be rich and famous, and when the Wright brothers beat him to the sky, he quit. Not because flight was impossible, but because someone else got the credit. That's the power of why. We've been trained from a young age to focus on the what and the how. What job do you want? How are you going to get it? What's your 5-year plan? All logical questions, but not the most important one. The most important question, the question that great leaders, great companies, and fulfilled individuals ask themselves is, why do I want this in the first place? You see, why is not about profit. It's not about goals or metrics. It's about meaning. It's your cause, your belief, your reason for getting out of bed in the morning. Think of it like this: a person who wants to become a doctor to impress their parents or make 6 figures may get tired. But a person who wants to become a doctor because they believe every child deserves care, regardless of background, they'll keep going through the sleepless nights, through the exams, through the failures. Because why fuels perseverance? Anyone can set a goal, but it's those who have a reason behind the goal that stand the test of time. In business, the same truth applies. Apple didn't succeed because they built computers. Lots of companies built computers. Apple succeeded because they believed in challenging the status quo. They believed in thinking differently. That belief, their why, came through in everything they did. The design, the messaging, the experience. People don't just buy what Apple makes. They buy what Apple believes, and the same is true for you. So the next time you say, I want to be successful, stop. Ask yourself, why do I want to succeed? What will it allow me to do? Who do I want to become in the process? Because if you know your why, the what becomes clearer, and the how becomes easier. You don't find fulfillment by doing more. You find fulfillment by doing what matters. And that starts with knowing why it matters. Let me leave you with this. When you know your why, you'll find the courage to endure anyhow. That's where everything starts. Everyone wants something, but want is a weak word. You want to be successful. You want a 6-pack. You want to write a book, start a business, find love. That's not special. Everyone wants. Wanting is cheap. Wanting costs you nothing. Wanting sits on the couch and says, someday. But commitment shows up. Let me tell you about Captain Swenson. He's a Medal of Honor recipient. During a firefight in Afghanistan, he risked his life not once, not twice, but 5 times, to save his wounded brothers in arms. On his 5th trip, dragging a soldier back into the helicopter, someone captured a photo. In that photo, Swenson is seen kissing the wounded soldier on the forehead before going back into the fire. Now, I doubt Captain Swenson wanted to do that. He didn't want to run into bullets. He didn't want to nearly die. But he was committed to his people, to a code, to something bigger than himself. That's the difference in our world. We're taught to obsess over goals, set smart goals, visualize the end, but goals are outcomes. They're destinations. Commitment is the vehicle that gets you there. If want is a wish, then commitment is the contract. Not with the world, with yourself. Because when you're committed, you stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop explaining away the delays. You stop looking for motivation and start creating discipline. I once met a young entrepreneur who said, "Simon, I really want to grow my business. I want to be a leader. I want to inspire people." So I asked him, "How many books on leadership have you read this month?" He said, "None. I've been too busy. Here's the truth. You can either have excuses or results. You don't get to have both. The people who get what they want, the ones we admire, they aren't superhuman. They're just committed to what they say they value. They show up early, stay late, say no to distraction, say yes to discomfort. They don't let their feelings dictate their effort. They let their commitment dictate their actions." That's what makes the difference. The best leaders I know, they commit to their people before they ever ask their people to commit to them. The best athletes I know, they commit to the process, not just the podium. The best relationships I've seen, they're built not on love alone, but on commitment. Because love will come and go, but commitment stays when love gets tired. So don't ask, "How badly do I want it?" Ask, "How much discomfort am I willing to tolerate to earn it?" That's the question that matters. Because at the end of the day, you don't get what you want. You get what you're willing to wake up for, stay up for, and show up for day after day, especially when it's hard. That's commitment. And that's what gets you what you want. If you want to get whatever you want in life, here's the paradox. Stop focusing on what you can get, and start focusing on what you can give. We've been taught that success is a competition. Beat the other guy. Get the promotion, win the sale, take the credit, but that's not how the best leaders operate. That's not how trust is built. That's not how movements are made. The people who get ahead in the long run are the ones who serve first. Let me explain. In the Marine Corps, there's a tradition. Officers eat last. You walk into a Marine mess hall, and the most junior soldiers eat first. The highest-ranking officers, they stand at the back of the line. Not because they're less hungry, not because they're less important, because great leaders put the needs of their people before themselves. Because leadership is not a rank, it's a responsibility. I met a CEO once, brilliant guy, ran $1 billion company, but what struck me wasn't his title or his resume. It was that when we visited his headquarters, he knew the names of the janitors. He greeted the receptionist like a friend. He asked questions, and actually listened to the answers. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, "My job isn't to be in charge. My job is to take care of the people in my charge." And that's what service looks like. You see, we confuse leadership with authority. We think influence comes from status, but true influence, the kind that creates loyalty, trust, and legacy, comes from service, from going the extra mile when no one's looking, from staying behind to help a teammate, from listening longer than you talk, from giving credit and taking responsibility, because when you make someone feel seen, heard, and valued, they remember that. And they come with you not because they have to, but because they want to. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you made someone else's goal your priority, even if it didn't benefit you directly? Because here's the secret. The fastest way to get what you want is to help others get what they want. It's not transactional, it's human. When you serve first, trust follows, and when people trust you, doors open that you could never force open yourself. So, no matter where you are, in a startup, a classroom, a boardroom, or a living room, ask yourself, who can I lift today? Who can I listen to? Who can I serve? Because in the long run, people won't remember your title. They won't remember your achievements. They'll remember how you made them feel. And when you serve first, they'll remember you as someone who gave before you asked. That is how you lead. That is how you build influence. And that, ironically, is how you get everything you truly want. In every meeting, in every room, in every conversation, there's a silent contest happening. Who's going to speak first? We've been taught that power is loud. That influence is about dominating the room, that leaders are the ones with all the answers. But the best leaders I've ever met, they don't rush to speak, they don't interrupt, they don't posture or perform. They wait, they listen, and they speak last. Let me tell you about Nelson Mandela, one of the greatest leaders the world has ever known, revered not just for what he did, but for how he did it. When asked about his leadership style, Mandela said it came from watching his father, a tribal chief. He noticed something subtle but profound. Whenever his father held council, he would always let others speak first. He'd sit quietly, listen to every opinion, every concern, every perspective, and only then would he offer his thoughts. That's leadership, not telling people what to think, but creating space for them to be heard. We live in a culture obsessed with talking. Social media trains us to react instantly. Meetings reward the first person with the sharpest opinion. And in our rush to be right, we forget to be wise. But here's the truth. Being the smartest in the room doesn't make you the leader. Being the last to speak often does. Why? Because listening signals respect. And respect builds trust. When you speak last, it doesn't mean your voice is less valuable. It means you value others first. And here's the irony, when you listen more, people listen to you more because they know you care. They know you're not just waiting for your turn to talk. You're actually trying to understand. That's rare, and rare is powerful. In any team, company, or relationship, people don't want a boss who has all the answers. They want a leader who's willing to ask better questions. What do you think? What's your perspective? How do you see it? Those questions create connection. They invite contribution. And when people feel heard, they don't just perform better, they belong. And that's when magic happens. So here's a challenge at your next meeting, big or small. Resist the urge to jump in first. Be curious instead of convincing. Ask one more question before making one more statement. You'll be surprised what happens when you simply wait, because when you're the last to speak, you gather more information, you avoid unnecessary conflict. You make others feel valued, and you earn something far more valuable than applause. You earn trust. Let me close with this. Speaking first is easy. Listening first is rare, and leading with humility. That's what leaves a legacy. Most people are playing to win. The best people, they're playing to last. Let me explain. There are two kinds of games in life, finite and infinite. A finite game has known players, fixed rules, and a clear end point. Think football, there's a scoreboard, a winner, a loser. But life is not a football game. Leadership is not a sprint. Business is not a war you win. These are infinite games. The players change, the rules evolve, and there's no such thing as winning, only staying in the game. The goal of the infinite game is not to beat others. It's to outlast yesterday. It's to keep playing. It's to build something that endures. Let me tell you a quick story. In the early 2000s, Blockbuster was at the top. A household name, multi-billion-dollar company. Then a small unknown company came along, Netflix. Netflix didn't try to beat Blockbuster at their own game. They changed the game. Streaming instead of renting. Blockbuster laughed. They focused on quarterly profit. They doubled down on late fees and brick-and-mortar stores. Netflix focused on innovation and long-term customer trust. Today, Netflix is part of culture. Blockbuster is part of history. Why? Because Blockbuster was playing to win. Netflix was playing to stay in the game. This mindset applies to everything. In relationships, are you trying to win the argument? Or are you trying to build trust over time? In leadership, are you trying to beat your competition? Or are you trying to outserve your customers and outlast trends? In personal growth, are you trying to arrive? Or are you trying to evolve? The finite player wakes up asking, how can I win today? The infinite player wakes up asking, how can I get better today? One is driven by ego, the other is driven by purpose. Here's the thing about infinite players, they're unshakable. They're not thrown off by short-term failure, because they see failure as feedback. They're not obsessed with comparison, because they're running their own race. They're not chasing finish lines, because they know the real game has no end. And ironically, it's the infinite players, the ones not chasing success, who often find the most of it. I've met CEOs who built empires and still felt empty. Why? Because they won the finite game, revenue, expansion, headlines, but never played the infinite one, vision, legacy, purpose. You want to get whatever you want. Stop asking, how do I get there faster? Start asking, how do I build something that lasts? Infinite thinking is patient. It's generous, it's resilient, and most importantly, it's rare. So whether you're building a business, nurturing a relationship, or trying to live a life of meaning, ask yourself, am I playing to win the day? Or am I playing to stay in the game? Because in the end, the most successful people aren't the ones who win. They're the ones who endure. They're the ones who keep showing up. They're the ones who leave behind more than a name. They leave behind an impact. Play the infinite game, and you'll discover that what you want was never just about what you could get. It was always about what you could build and who you could become along the way.